What's up, everybody? Welcome back to THI, formerly known as Tar Heel Illustrated. Hopefully I have something to announce soon, so make sure you guys subscribe so you'll know exactly when that happens.
We will have something.
Yeah, we will. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Why did I say he's been Andrew Jones? He is Andrew Jones, as I butcher this intro. But AJ, I'm not cutting it. I'm not restarting it. We're going to keep pushing.
No, I've been a lot of things. Most of it, probably not. Probably get flagged on YouTube for saying
it might get demonetized if we go into saying too much of what you might have used.
He has been in A, B, C, D, anyway.
List it off, yeah. But AJ, we're here to talk a little Carolina basketball and have a little bit of a debate here and talk about the North Carolina-NC State series, and should North Carolina-NC State play a non-conference game now so they can play each other twice a year? Because obviously going into next season, Carolina is only playing State one time, and it was a typical game where they play in Raleigh and at the Smith Center. That is not going to happen next season. So should Carolina and State potentially schedule a non-conference game in order to play each other twice a season? So, AJ, I'll kick it to you first. Do you think that should happen, or do you think that shouldn't happen?
I'm going to answer the question with a preface first. What I would like to see as a fan and even cover as a journalist, because of the storylines, of course I would want to see them play twice. I want to see Van Allen Lubin come into the Smith Center this next year. And I just think that it's historic. I mean, my dad went to the Carolina in the 50s. He used to go to games all the places, and you played twice a year. These two programs have played every twice a year since 1910 or something. Mm-hmm. So it's the fact that they're not going to play twice because you brought in two schools from the San Francisco Bay Area and another school from Dallas, Texas, that paid its way in. It really makes it more difficult to take the position I'm going to take, because it's absurd in a lot of ways. Yeah. But the reason that those schools are in the league, and not so absurd because the league has more value as a result. We can argue that till the cows come home, but trust me, it does. So under the current landscape, now that they went back to 18 games, and you knew when they went back to 18 games, there would be a casualty. You're going to have to sacrifice most schools have two rivals. You knew Carolina's got to sacrifice it. I remember a long time ago, people were concerned that, if they don't play Wake twice a year, what's going to happen? Well, they don't play Wake twice a year and nobody cares, although Wake is a different animal than NC State. You've got to – the ACC should not allow it, number one, because why would you build in a non-conference loss on a team's resume in your league? The whole point of going back to 18 games is to have two more non-conference opportunities, two more wins. You got to get more wins. I think everybody should play a patsy. They can beat by 40, and you should go play a quality opponent, maybe on a neutral site or a home series or something like that. This doesn't help either one of them. I mean, if you win, it helps, but it's still not showing what you could do against another power league. That's what the ACC needs to do. Football, the ACC has 27 games against power conference teams outside the league. Big Ten has 12 or 13. So the ACC has a chance to show what it's all about. They need to get their image back up, their reputation back up, credibility back up in basketball. That doesn't help. Beating one another doesn't help. So, no, I don't think that they should. I personally would like to see it. I personally would like to cover it. I personally want to write those storylines. But from a practical standpoint, if I'm the AD at NC State or I'm the AD at North Carolina, I'm not touching that game, because you really have very little to gain from it other than we keep tradition going. But college football took tradition, put it over here, and lit a massive match and regularly pours kerosene all over it to keep it burning. Tradition doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Texas
and Texas A&M didn't play for how long in football?
Mm-hmm.
Tradition doesn't mean squat. Everyone will move forward, and the NC State fans we get to save a beating in Chapel Hill this year. So
that's true, probably from their perspective. I'm going to take the opposite approach. I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to say yes, they should play. And I'm going to give the reasons why I think they should. Because let me preface it by two. I don't The only thing I don't like about this idea is it would have to be a non-conference game, essentially is what we're kind of saying here. If they were to play each other, it would have to be a non-conference game. That is the part of it I don't like. So I'll go out and get that out of the way. I think it is, I've always been of the belief that it is kind of stupid to play a team that's in your conference in a non-conference game. That to me just doesn't make any sense. Like, they're in your conference, they're right down the road. Like, why we got to play non-conference? But if that's the situation, they have to go in to play each other twice. Here's why I think they should. Tradition. Just like you said, AJ, tradition, we're losing it way too fast. Tradition and all this stuff that has been kind of something you associate Carolina and State playing twice a year, once in Raleigh, once in UNC. As long as I've been around, I can remember that. As long as you've been around, you can remember that. And all of a sudden, because you add these schools from the middle of, the West Coast, the all-coast conference, what I call it now, you can't play each other. You can't play the school down the road, one of your biggest rivals, twice a year. I don't like that from a viewer perspective. I don't like that from a journalistic perspective like you two. I want to talk about those games. I'd much rather cover State playing UNC in Chapel Hill than go talk about, Carolina playing at Cal or something like that.
I agree with you 100% on that.
That doesn't intrigue me as much. So from a traditional standpoint, maybe I'm being a little bit too sappy with this. I want to keep that tradition alive, and I want to see these two schools playing. And even more from a selfish reason right now, I want to see these two schools playing even more now because of what I think Will Wade's going to be able to do at North Carolina State. I think he's going to do a good job there. And I want to see that matchup more than I wanted to see a Kevin Keats-led NC State team play North Carolina. So I think to keep their tradition, and also, too, it's good for the area. We talk about area. We did a podcast talking about having a multi-team event tournament where Duke, Carolina, NC State kind of host it. We talked about how positive that would be for the area. But for this area of college basketball and how historic it is and how special it is, not being able to see Carolina, NC State play twice a year hurts the area for basketball too. So tradition standpoint, positive for the area, keeping that tradition alive here, and also a little bit of a selfish perspective, wanting to see a little bit more matchup and seeing what that rivalry is going to evolve into now. I want to see that twice a year more than I want to see it once a year. So that's my devil's advocate perspective on it.
And the perfect remedy to that is, since everyone's playing two teams twice, just lock in NC State and Duke for home and home.
I don't get why they couldn't do that.
I couldn't believe when I saw that they were. That doesn't make a lick of sense not to do that. I mean, the ACC has created this discussion by not just doing the smart thing. Who's sitting in that room and saying, NC State, Carolina, you play twice this year?
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, who came to that decision? That must have floated by and no one saw it.
Yeah.
That is nonsensical.
Even from a logistical standpoint.
Honestly, we shouldn't even have this discussion. Because personally, I want to see them play twice a year. I think for all the reasons I said, twice a year, we got to keep the tradition and all that. I'm speaking from, if I'm an AD, I'm not playing that game.
And I agree with that. I do.
And
agree.
If I'm the commissioner, if I'm Jim Phillips, I don't want that game being played because I don't want one of my teams having a built-in already non-conference loss.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's why. Because
I agree with your perspective.
They went back to 18 games to enhance everybody's chances of getting in the NCAA tournament. So then don't complicate matters by playing that game. I get that. But good gracious, you're not playing one team every year now, so you're playing two twice. It should be NC State and Carolina.
It makes no sense.
And Carolina and Duke. Even if State's really good, Carolina's fine. If Carolina has to play against Duke, which is one of the best programs in the country, they have to play Carolina twice, one of the best programs in the country. Add NC State to it under Will Wade. If they're really, really good, it just makes Carolina better. Builds the resume and all that kind of crap. If you're a Carolina fan, you want that. If you're the ACC, don't you want those kind of matchups that mean more? Don't you want those matchups that are going to be better TV? I mean, it's a TV show. They should have it. So I'm with you in the fact that they should play. I'm just speaking more from, if I'm an AD and I'm the commissioner of the league, you should not play.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I agree with a lot of, if I'm being honest, if saying what do I actually want, I would say it doesn't. I agree with what you're saying of it doesn't make sense to play. My main thing is, along with what you've said, is I just think it's so stupid to play an NC State team and it has to count as a non-conference game. That alone is just like, we're not doing that. Like, just schedule these two teams home and home. Like, why is it that they got rid of that? I mean, that's something too, just to speak on this real quick. I think that these are games that Carolina fans and State fans, to an extent, circle on the calendar. Like, oh yeah, when does Carolina play State? Or from a State fan, when does State play Carolina? I think those are the matchups you look forward to every year. and we'll
it's
take
an
that away.
experience over at State to have Carolina come in. Yeah. Back in the day, I covered a ton of games at State that Carolina wasn't there. It's an experience. They should have that. The students at NC State should have Carolina come in 4 times a year. The students at Carolina, they like to harass NC State and start the tractor and all that kind of crap. They should have the Wolfpack come in 4 times in their college lives. It's ridiculous. I agree that the league should fix this, and then you and I won't have a discussion about it anymore. But I think we both stated our cases.
Yeah, and I mean, we should be surprised at the ACC making interesting choices. I'll use the word interesting. Should we be really surprised by that? Probably not, with how things have gone down the last few years. So I want to know what people think. I want to know what fans think about that. I'm very interested because I think it might be a little bit split. If I'm predicting, I think most people in the comments are going to say that they would rather see Carolina and State play. I think, again, the caveat there is one of them twice a year, I should say. I think the caveat there is I think a lot of people will probably agree of like, it just doesn't make sense to make it a non. If that's
I
what
think most people will agree with you, and because there's an emotional component, they'll just say, "Look, they should just play. Who cares what Jim Phillips does? They should just play." And you know what? It makes the game matter that much more because it's a non-conference game. You cannot afford to lose that because it will stand out differently than as a conference game will. So I think more people will agree with you on this, but I'm strictly looking at it from an AD perspective and a commissioner perspective. Yeah. Otherwise, the rest of me wants to see this happen.
Yeah, and that's how we wanted to approach this. We wanted to approach this podcast as kind of a quick little debate, not really saying what our, just so we can kind of see both sides, because I think there are valid arguments on both sides of the spectrum. So we'll leave it there. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Quick edition of our Daily Drop podcast series. Keep it locked. We have some news to announce soon. Not sure exactly when we will, but just keep it locked because we will. And make sure you
got to make sure everything is all aligned.
So don't say don't say it. Cross the eyes.
Yeah.
I'm
not saying that. That's why I said it's all got to be aligned.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. We
have to form a circle.
There we go. Exciting times ahead, though. And again,
hold hands and sway.
just keep it nice and
won't sing Kumbaya.
But yeah, we'll have some stuff to announce soon. Keep it locked to our socials. Links in the description below, and make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell here too, because when we have something to announce, we'll obviously talk about it on the YouTube channel as well. So appreciate everybody watching. As always, get involved in the comments. See y'all soon. Thanks.